Hey everyone, welcome back to the Trendcrusher podcast. I'm Peter K, aka Trendcrusher, and this week I've got a great episode. Unfortunately, it's audio only. This was done a while back before I figured out how to do the whole video setup and all of that. My apologies. I spoke to JJ, the frontman and drummer of Canadian heavy metal act Thunderor, and they released their album Fire It Up via Boonsdale Records all the way in Feb. Now, the thing is, I spoke to JJ about this album, I think in Jan this year, and yeah, it's July, I know, but life got caught up, a lot of stuff happened. Okay, all excuses out of the way and apologies. I'm glad at least to finally get this chat out because we had a great chat about the album, starting a new band. For those of you who don't know, JJ is also the drummer of Canadian metal act Skullfist. So, yeah, here's my chat with JJ. Hi, JJ. How's it going?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for having me, Peter.
Yeah, it's really awesome to talk to you. And I know the listeners can't see this, but I had a huge smile on my face when I saw you wearing a Kryptos tank top, like something that's
Yeah.
not even available in India. So yeah, that's
Oh
really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I'm actually a big Cryptos fan. So and they're wicked dudes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we played some shows with them before and yeah, I actually have a couple Cryptos t-shirts and but I always cut them up, you know. So I mean like pretty much every metal shirt I own like gets turned into some kind of like sleeveless tank top thing.
That's awesome. But we're here to talk about your new band, and I hope I get the name correct, but Thunderor. Uh,
Mhm.
we're a week away from your release of your debut album, Fire It Up. How does it feel, man? Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting. I feel like it's been since forever, you know, like the timeline for this release. Um, but because we started things, I mean, back in like at the beginning of the pandemic, really was when we started the recording, and it feels like everything took so long, but I feel like nowadays time is going by so quickly. So it's like 2 years have gone by, but it like doesn't feel like it. Um, but yeah, even just with the release timeline, like we've already got the two singles out, and then yeah, I mean it's hard to imagine that the album's going to be out next week. We're super stoked. We're going to have a third music video is going to come out on the release date, and I think it's our best one yet. It's definitely the one with the most production value. So yeah, I'm super excited.
Wow, I'm really happy to hear that. And I'm going to hold the thoughts on the music video for a bit. But yeah, it's crazy when I think about it that a lot of musicians that I've spoken to, it's kind of been very polarizing, the pandemic, right? I mean, there's some of them who've just kind of said that, we can't work remotely with the rest of the band and stuff like that, or we cannot record at home. But then there are projects like Thunderor, which have kind of spawned through the pandemic. But correct me if I'm wrong, this was an idea that you had much before that, right?
Yeah, it was actually before the pandemic hit. I think it was like late 2019 where the decision was made to start Thunderer. So like we I already had the name out, and I was starting to like build the social media channels, which was really fun because you know, I was being very mysterious about it. And so just to get like people were talking, they're like, oh, I wonder what it's gonna be. But like the thing is like I didn't even know what it was gonna be. So that was a fun thing to go through that and present it that way. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy because the pandemic did actually work in our favor in a sense because it gave us a lot of downtime. We were pretty busy with Skullfist and also with Johnny's other um, project, Star Crash, which we had just finished doing and recording ourselves. So this downtime just really allowed us to focus in on it because we had nothing else going on. So we just went into the jam room. We're like, okay, let's do it. Like let's write the album.
Wow. that's some experience, and I want to dive more into that. But you brought up Skullfist, and I'm I think there's a reason probably why you went mysterious, because the moment you have two members of Skullfist like forming a band, there's bound to be comparisons, right? Was that something at the back of your mind while putting together the whole concept or the whole idea of Thunderor?
Yeah, totally. I mean, we knew there was going to be a certain amount of influence and similarities, obviously because it's me and Johnny. But part of me was really hoping that it wasn't going to turn out too similar to Skullfist, because I did want it to be like its own thing. Um, and like I said in the beginning, before we wrote the music, we didn't really know what it was going to sound like. It was an exciting thing for us. We were just really jamming and letting the music kind of dictate the direction. And like it's weird when you're doing it that way, because it was kind of like you're almost like a bystander and you're watching the music take a hold of itself and transform it on its own almost, because you're kind of like letting it do its thing. You're just guiding it. But yeah, I'm super happy that the genre that we've kind of come out with is it's definitely heavy metal, but a lot of hard rock also. And I think with the decision to put the keyboards in there, I think although all those things has made it quite different from Skullfist. But having said that, I think Skullfist fans will really dig it.
Yeah, and why not, right? I mean, like if you get two bands, especially in that similar kind of universe, if I may say, of the 80s, because when I was listening to Thunderor, right? And initially I was like, okay, is this going to be something very similar? And then I heard How We Roll, and I was like, oh boy, like this is not something what I expected, right? And
Yeah.
if I may use the term, forgive me for being like this, but there's a far more warmer production that Thunderor
Mm.
has, right? And was that something that you had at the top of your mind, that you wanted it to kind of sound like in terms of sonically?
That's actually really nice to hear, because we recorded everything ourselves in our rehearsal space. So we had done it that way also for the Star Crash stuff, but that was more Johnny doing the production side of things, and I had done a lot of drum recording before, but only pre-production stuff, like never like an album that we were going to release. So it was a big learning experience for us, because we finally bought like proper recording gear and stuff, because before we just had these ancient like 8 tracks that we would use. We're so old school with it. But and it was like, okay, it's time to like make the jump. Like we got proper like software and like mics and stuff, like vocal mics. um but yeah, I think the we really wanted to preserve like the human aspect of the music. So I think that's why, and the fact that we're not like whizzes in terms of like engineering and stuff like that. I think we ended up with a very like natural sound. So there's not too much editing, and we wanted to stay away from like quantizing the drums or like pitch correction or like that kind of stuff. So it's nice to I think it did translate into the music. Like it's not perfect, but that's we didn't want that. We want it to be like a human. We want people to feel the music.
Yeah, and I think it definitely comes across in there. And the more I listen to the album now that I've had a chance to get a preview copy, it kind of makes sense what you're talking about, right? Uh, I want to quickly talk about your writing process. I mean, was this like the first time you were deciding? Because if you think about it, especially in like metal, whether it's heavy metal or more extreme, you don't have a lot of drummers kind of taking the writing role, right?
Mhm.
Although I have heard of members of Cannibal Corpse, the drummer, writing music. Was
Mm.
that like a huge leap for you, or what was that process like to kind of decide that I'm not going to just be playing drums in this band, I'm also going to be like taking an active role or leading the band in terms of
Mhm.
songwriting?
Yeah, definitely. It was something completely new for me, and I've done a lot of co-writing before, but always from a drummer's perspective, right? So it's like, okay, I've had a lot to do with arrangements in the past in like the many bands that I've been in. So it's like, oh, okay, no, do this part here. Like this section should go longer or shorter and stuff like that, but never like writing melodies and like actual full songs, right? So I think our process was a bit unconventional for this record because when it started, I started by just writing drum beats and drum arrangement. So I kind of had like drum songs. So it was like, okay, well, this beat is the verse, and then like this beat is the chorus, and like here's the next beat, and then whatever. So it was just mostly like that, and then a couple like piano songs that I had written just on the piano, but mainly they were drum songs. And then me and Johnny just got in the room together, and I would just play out the beats, and he would just jam along until he would play all kinds of riffs until we would hear something that we both liked, and we're like, okay, let's jam that out for a bit longer and see where that goes. And we just did that for all the tunes, and I would record the jam sessions. So we ended up with these like 10-minute long um, jam songs, right? And then I would go back and listen, and then chop them up, move parts around, and I would turn it into like what I thought would be, okay, this looks like something of a good song. And then we would go back again and learn it that way and whatever. So we ended up with like a bunch of instrumental songs after a couple rounds of that. And then afterwards, I did the vocal melodies. I would compose on the piano. The keyboards, we almost didn't add them. I added them on one chorus and one song because I'm a big synth fan. And once I did it, it sounded so cool. And I remember talking to Johnny, and I was like, "Oh man, like, should we just put keyboards on the whole record?" And he's like, he was like, "Yeah, do it." So we did it. We added the keyboards, and then Oscar did the bass at the end. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange way. I've never done it that way before, but it really worked for us. I think we've found our formula, and I think we're probably going to do it that way again next time.
Awesome. So we've talked so much already. So I think
Mm.
it's time to play a track. Do you want to quickly cue up How We Roll for all our listeners?
Yeah, cool. I mean, this one's our first single. It's called "How We Roll." It's about motorcycle riding, living life with your friends, and not wanting to go home when it's time to go home.
Cool.
Just the way we roll. I have to tell you, the first time I watched the video for How We Roll, I was like, these guys really are having fun. Tell me about that entire video shoot. I mean, that looks like quite a challenge. And then to add to it the context that this was done in the middle of a pandemic. So take us through that. Like, was this like you had to be really planned out because hey, you don't know when a lockdown could get enforced, right?
Mm. Yeah, it was an interesting video shoot. It was the first time that I've ever done a green screen type of video, and I really wanted to do it, that because the possibilities, it just opens up a whole thing. Initially, I wanted the three of us to be on motorcycles, but just on green screen so that we could kind of be like, I would be like singing while riding and we would be like interacting with each other all on the bikes, and it would kind of be like a fun video like that. But the video director that I found, he's an Indian guy actually. Him and his whole team are from India originally, and they had never done a rock or metal music video ever before.
Oh my God, this sounds
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a lot.
yeah. Like they had done like Bollywood style stuff, like they were like, but the stuff they did had like millions of views, right? So, I found these guys through an ad when I was like, I just put an ad out. I didn't know anybody. All the video guys I knew, they didn't do green screen. They didn't want to touch it because it's too many problems, or like it's a very like specialized thing. So finally I found these guys. They were young guys too, and they were really excited about it to like work with like, oh, something like rock and roll. Like, okay, cool. So yeah, I told them about the concept. They were really stoked on it. But then they were actually the ones who insisted on doing actual motorcycle riding shots. And I was like, oh, that's sounds like a lot more work. But they were really adamant about it. So yeah, we ended up doing like a hybrid thing where we got actual riding shots and then mixed in with like the green screen of us just performing.
Wow, that actually sounds cool because I don't know what it would be like now that I'm thinking about the video, right? In terms of all of you riding on the bikes on the green screen. So kudos to the team for actually kind of convincing you for that. Uh, but it's kind of hard to talk to any band over the last couple of years without bringing up the pandemic and lockdowns and stuff. What was that process like, especially considering you said it was all kind of self-recorded, right? Having talked about that also, I'm very curious to know in terms of the sound, right? Like, it's one thing to record yourselves, but then you also want it to have a certain sound and kind of sound like certain bands. So what was the reference that you all had in terms of what you all wanted to sound like overall?
Yeah, totally. I mean, although we did record everything ourselves, as in like the tracking, but when it came to the mixing and the mastering, we hired like professionals to do it, just because mixing a record is a whole other ball game. So we were actually, the studio that we were recording the new Skullfist record, uh, Vespa Studios, which actually just closed down this year. Unfortunately, we were the last record to be tracked there. Yeah, and
Wow.
and yeah, and they've done like massive records. Like Billy Talent records all this stuff there, and like they've done some like crazy records. The owner is Harry Hess. He's the singer from Harem Scarum. Um,
Oh, wow.
so yeah, he's a really cool dude. So yeah, it's an amazing studio, like with the old school like giant SSL boards. So yeah, we were already in there doing the Skullfist record. So when it came time to mix, because we were kind of on the same timeline with the Thunderor record. So we were just like, damn, we just mixed it at Vespa too, and got Harry to master it. Um, I think we wanted to sound it like we already captured like the natural kind of warmth, I think, like that we talked about before, but obviously I think when you're releasing a record in 2022, then you need it to sound at a certain level. And I think having the mixing and the mastering like did that for us, because we wanted it to still sound modern and relevant. Like you don't want people to be like, I know it's a bit lacking. So I think the production is still there. And yeah, we're happy with the way it turned out. But I think in terms of like what we wanted it to sound like, I mean, I don't know. I was listening to a lot of Saxon at the time, and I got a lot of vocal inspiration from Saxon. So I kind of wanted it to be like, kind of like a modern day Saxon kind of thing / Skullfist.
Yeah, and you're talking about it. Saxon also has a new album coming out soon. So what a time,
dude! They're amazing. Like their discography, they've been releasing a record like every 2 years for like 25 years. Like
I know.
It's nuts. Yeah.
Like who would think that a Saxon record and a Thunderor record would release in the same year, right?
yeah, that's crazy. Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right. So since you talked again about the sound, let's play the second single from the album. Could you just cue it up for us? Go ahead, tell us which track are we going to listen to.
This one's the title track from the album. So it's called Fire It Up. And I think it pretty much sums up the whole record. And again, it's a lot about motorcycle riding, but I think that's a kind of a metaphor for life and the thing about chasing your dream and not giving up.
Awesome. So here's Fire It Up.
Can you feel the heat?
I'm going to
Nice.
come back to kind of where we started our conversation, right? About the whole plan that you had for Thunderor, because you were doing this mysteriously on social media and stuff like that. And I'm looking at your album cover, and I don't know how you want to describe him, but he's a mean guy on a motorbike. Uh, tell me about the whole image, because I think in 2022, right, it's not just important to have good sounding music, it's also about the whole package. uh,
Mm.
what were the ideas that you had in terms of what Thunderer should look like?
Yeah, I think the album cover, I need to give a lot of credit to the artist, who is Daniel Porta. He's based in Mexico, and he's done loads of awesome art for a lot of heavy metal bands. He understands the genre that we do, and he actually designed our logo as well. So yeah, he was our first choice to get the album art done. It wasn't my initial vision of what the album cover should be. Was kind of like more of a movie poster style. Like, I'm a big Indiana Jones and like James Bond fan from like since I've been a kid. So I kind of wanted something like that. And we did do some kind of, we did have an art piece done because by somebody else, because Daniel couldn't, that wasn't his style. He does like illustrations and stuff like that. But what I was envisioning was more of like a cross between like photo and illustration. So I got this dude off of Fiverr to do it for me. Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, and it came out cool, but it wasn't. It looked better in my head. Let's just put it that way. But it still came out really cool. So we ended up using that image as just like a promo photo, and which you've probably already seen. And like it ended up being the main promo photo for the band, which is not not what I would have anticipated. But when it came time to send sorry, I'm like totally branching off of the question here, but I'll get back to the original question. But when it came time to do our PR for the album, I sent like 5 band photos to our PR guys. Like, we had, you know, a guy in Canada, Asher, right? We had a company in Germany doing Europe, and then we had a UK company as well. And it's funny because everybody chose the same image independently, not knowing what anyone else was going to choose. Yeah, and I thought that was amazing. I was like, because first the German guys came back, and I was like, oh, interesting. They chose the Indiana Jones photo. And then sure enough, the other 2 came back also. So I was like, okay, well, I guess this is the image, right?
I'm going to
Yeah.
hold you on that, because that was going to be my
Mm.
next question, really, is just the variety that you have in terms of band photos, right? It kind of gives publications also the choice, because normally you just have like 2 band photos, and it's with metal, it's the stereotypical, you know, cross-armed or just like close-up mean looking faces. And you guys are on a yacht, am I right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That
So I
is so
mean,
cool.
yeah, that, I guess that photo kind of leaked out. It wasn't really supposed to be like released. I mean, we kind of released it, but we didn't really push it yet. But yeah, I mean, we're on a yacht. We're all wearing white. I've got like the keytar. So it's very strange when you see it, but until you see the music video that goes with it, then it's you know, then once you see the video, then everything makes sense. So
Okay, fair enough. So, since you were kind of leading to it, tell me about the album cover, because I'm really fascinated by that also.
yeah, so I mean, the album cover, because we had strayed away from the original idea, I kind of just got back to Daniel, and I was like, dude, like, you know, I'm thinking some kind of like motorcycle rider, because motorcycles are just like a very big theme throughout the album, and like, and the metaphors behind riding, and like and everything like that. So I kind of gave him the reins to be like, okay, just what are you thinking, So what I liked about Daniel is that he always asks me for the music, and he kind of lets the music like give him ideas, and I love that about his art. So when he came back with the initial sketch, I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like, let's go with this. I mean, initially it was supposed to be a single cover for How We Roll, but we liked it so much that like when I showed it to Johnny, we both loved it. And I think the deciding factor to go with that was that we could both picture it on a vinyl. And I think once you can do that, then you've got the album cover. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I can picture this in my hands. So yeah, I mean, big credit to Daniel for the album art.
Yeah, I love it. And I think not only does it look good on vinyl, but it also looks great on a t-shirt. So I think that's one of the things, right? Coming back to what I said earlier, like in 2020, it's not just important to kind of sound great, because unfortunately you're judged on your album cover and your band photos even before somebody listens to say 30 seconds of your music, and this is all across, right? So
It's true.
I'm really glad that you kind of got all of that together. Now, before we started recording, I talked to you about how I actually lived in Toronto. And for me, that was one of the defining moments, because I was also like a teenager at that time. And I was discovering metal, got heavily into extreme metal. And the Toronto scene has changed so much. Like, one thing I loved about Toronto is just that the music scene is so diverse, right? And you can go like down one street and listen to like 5 different bands jamming or playing, or just go down the bars and you'll see so much of music. And considering you've been part of like the Canadian rock and metal scene for say 15 years or more now, I guess. I want you to kind of recommend some of the bands from say Toronto, or even Canada for that matter, to our listeners. Like, what's currently music that they should definitely check out?
Yeah, like you said, Canada's got an amazing music scene here, and really good metal bands in all types of different genres. It's funny because like depending on where you go in Canada, they'll be kind of more specialized in like different subgenres. Like for example, there's a lot of extreme metal in Quebec, and like a lot more power metal, which is awesome. And then Toronto has kind of like a little bit of everything, and then like Alberta, I feel like there's a really cool heavy metal thing going on there right now. I mean, I guess you already know Stryker is from
I love
Edmonton.
them.
Yeah, they're so great. They're so great. But I mean, I think they've been around for like a long time as well. But just recently, in the last few years, just a couple great new heavy metal bands that have sprouted up with like different members from the scene there. So I don't know if you know Riot City, and and Traveler also are amazing. So I think that's really cool. Here in Toronto, we've still got a strong heavy metal scene. I think we're in need of some fresh blood. But just off the top of my head, like some just really good local guys are Villain, Ammo, Freeways is really cool. Also, Dead Wolf, who are friends of ours. I think it's curious. It's weird because it's like the music scene, the live music scene anyway, has kind of been put on hold for the last couple of years. So I'm really curious to, like, when things open up again, what new bands are gonna sprout, and what the status of the live scene will be, because like some of the bands that were around haven't been playing much, or they weren't jamming through this whole time, or like, and new bands have formed. So yeah, it's a bit of I'm hoping that it's gonna give it a good boost, and that there'll be lots of fresh blood out on the scene.
Okay, I'm really glad, and I'm equally excited actually about what we'll hear in at least the next, I'd say like the next 12 to 18 months. But if I have to put you on the spot, what's one band that you're really excited, which is either say from Toronto or Canada, that you want our listeners to hear?
Oh, I mean, that's a tough one. I'm trying to think of like what I've been listening to lately. Guess, I mean, I've been listening to a lot of Striker lately. I'll be honest. Yeah.
Awesome.
And just because so if you don't know them already, then definitely check them out. I mean, they've got so many albums. And I think what kind of got me like listening to them again now is that they've just gone through some more lineup changes, like even just recently. So, and I think anytime you change guys out, you kind of you kind of change the direction of the music, like whether you want to or not, and I think the last single they put out had a lot more it was more like synth based, like they're starting to add some more keyboards in there, and that's really cool because it really goes along with what Thunderor is doing and the kind of stuff that I like. So I mean, yeah, I'm really curious to see this like new version of them, this evolved sound, so I'm looking forward to their next album, and curious how different it will be.
Yeah, and just to add a little context to their new single, they kind of scared everyone with their social media. They're thinking that they broke up and stuff like that. And I was like, what a bummer. Like, they're such a great band, and then suddenly they come out with the track Death Wish. So I think let's play the track. So here's Death
definitely.
Wish.
Out in the jungle,
right, and that was Striker with Death Wish, one of the bands that you should actually check out from Canada, because hey, you know what, Canada has such a diverse music scene that if you go from like province to province, you'd spend an entire year. Okay. Uh, I know you've got an upcoming tour with Traveler, and what are you looking forward to that? Because I think that'll be like your first tour as Thunderer, right?
Yeah, so it was supposed to go down in March, but it's actually getting rescheduled now for June, which was a bummer, you know, at first, of course, because with the album release and everything, I really wanted a tour to go along with the release. But I think it's actually for the best because you know, the state of the scene in Europe is just going to be better in June. Everybody thinks anyway, and it's also allowing us to extend the tour. So I think initially it was only going to be like a week and a half. Now we're looking at about 3 weeks, maybe a little more. So it's great. We're going to be able to hit more cities, more countries. But yeah, we're super stoked for that. I think it's good. It's going to be a really cool tour, and yeah, we're really excited to play for the European audience.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, especially I'm looking at your experience from Skullfist. Europe has a far more softer spot for heavy metal, like the more traditional kind, right?
I think so. I mean, I think in Germany, you know, I think that's where our market is. I mean, obviously all Europe too, but I think, yeah, because Germany's such a big market, and yeah, and it's great because a lot of the dates on this European tour are in Germany, which is perfect for us. You know, it's that's where we want to be. That's where we want to push the record.
Yeah, and considering what you're saying, that is also what I've heard from my friends in Cryptos, because they just love
Mm,
Germany. Like
yeah.
they just do like an entire leg of their tour in Germany and be happy. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, I must push you, and it's only how much you can reveal. But since you talked about
Mm.
recording the Thunderer album along with Skullfist, and the mixing was kind of at the same time, and considering you know the studio is kind of short, I'm guessing the Skullfist album is in the can already.
Yeah, it's done. It's been done for a little bit, and we've been kind of quiet because there was some contract, you know, BS that we had to fulfill and get out of with our now former label. But I think the great thing is now that we've signed to a new label uh, with a very good team behind them, a European label, and I think I think that's what we need. I think they're going to be able to push the record properly and kind of take us to another step. So we're super excited about that. The album will be out in the spring, and I think, yeah, that's pretty much all I can say. All will be revealed by the end of the month. So yeah, I mean, it'll
Fair
be
enough.
soon. Yeah.
Yeah, so just keep your eyes peeled to the usual places. But thanks so much, JJ. It's been great talking to you and just kind of getting to understand the Thunderer album yet. I think, if I may say, I know it's still early in the year, but I'm going to be listening to it a lot more. And considering the year, how it's been so far, this is the kind of music that'll just kind of keep you hopeful. But before I let you go, any last words, any shout outs you want to give to anyone? It's your time and space.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me on the show, and I'm really glad you liked the album. I hope that more people can also feel that positive energy from the album, because it is a very positive vibe that we're trying to put out there, and I hope that Thunderer can be a soundtrack for people's adventures in life, kind of how like it's been for me. So yeah, hope to enjoy, and yeah, see you out on the road hopefully.
Thanks so much for your time, JJ, and have a good one.
Yeah, take care, Peter. See you, man.
And that was JJ from Thunderor. It's so interesting just to see how musicians start out with new acts and just get the story behind it. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you enjoyed the couple of tracks I played from Fire It Up on the show, I'm going to leave a link in the show notes. I think it's available on Big Cartel and also Bandcamp. Definitely check it out. And that's all from this episode. If you have a guest recommendation, or if you're a band listening to this episode and you want to be on the podcast, just hit me up, trendcrusher@gmail.com. I'm Trendcrusher on all social media also. But that's all from this episode. I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.